This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
So Rabbi Sigelman really gave a tremendous background. I don't know if everybody over here could really absorb what he said in the few minutes that he said it, but I have to tell you, based on what I said earlier about Rabbi Sigelman, he gave you a tremendous background in a very few amount of words that any lamdan can sit down and listen to what he said in 15 minutes and spend 3 hours on the shir he just said. He really gave a tremendous background on the halachas of kashering, especially as it comes to Pesach. So it's an extremely important background they have to have. If it's on tape or if somebody took notes, I would go over it because he really covered a lot in a very little amount of time. Things that are very important for kashering in general and Pesach in particular. Now, by a show of hands, how many people here will be kashering their kitchen this coming Pesach? Okay, so first of all, the joke we say in the rabbinate is that if you're going to be home, chag kasher v'sameach. If you're going to a hotel, chag sameach. So, but even though you're going to be home and you want to have a chag kasher v'sameach, I find that when it comes to kashering, people really do not have a clear concept of what you're doing, and that's why the background that Rabbi Sigelman gave is extremely important, because if you have the background of what we're trying to accomplish by kashering, so then you'll be able to kasher in the proper way. If you have an idea of how you're trying to make the keli kosher, how you're trying to make the pot kosher, why am I making it kosher, what's in it, what am I trying to pull out, what am I trying to accomplish, so then then you're able to kasher. If you don't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, this is really one of the few mitzvahs. You can put on tefillin every day, or you can do hafrashas challah and all those mitzvahs. That's great. If you don't have all of the kavanas, if you don't understand totally why I'm doing it, you're still doing the mitzvah. If a person doesn't understand kashering, so then you may at best just hurt yourself, right? And at worst, well, that might be the worst, but you may end up getting water all over the place, ruining your equipment, and to boot, not kashering it, and it comes out that on Pesach you're using a keli that wasn't kasher properly. So when it comes to kashering, it's extremely important that a person has to understand the background. There are so many good books right now. Rabbi Eider's book, if a person really wants to take the time to understand kashering on Pesach, take Rabbi Eider's book, The Laws of Pesach. You'll find it in Gift World or in Safra. If you'll come to my house, you'll see that my sefer from Rabbi Eider, the kashering, is marked up to the point where it's barely readable, but he brings in English, he brings in Hebrew, he brings the footnotes. He really gives a very, very good detailed understanding of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So my task over here, Rabbi Sigelman, as I said, gave a tremendous background. My task really is to do the practical. So now, let's start with, the mother of all kashering things needed to be kasher, which is the oven. We're going to start with the oven. So I would assume that most people in this room have a self-cleaning oven, or is that a wrong assumption? No. Okay, everybody here lives in apartments maybe, so maybe the apartments don't have self-cleaning ovens. That landlord, talked to him, he promised he's going to put in that self-cleaning oven. Chaim Bolender, you take care of that. You know how to do it. All right. So basically the idea is the following. When it comes to an oven, we have a big issue with the oven. The issue with the oven is, does it need a lieben gomer? Does it need a real burning out? Does it need a lieben kal, which is a little bit less? Which one is it? So if you have a self-cleaning oven, so that self-cleaning oven is going to get very high, probably in the 800 degree range. So that's called a lieben gomer. A lieben gomer means that it's going to burn off everything to the point where it's going to get red. As Rabbi Sigelman so well explained, that when we're doing a lieben gomer means lieben is practically meaning a whitening. Gomer means totally, right? In other words, if you burn something out to the point where there's nothing left inside, it gets white hot, right? Everybody knows the expression. So the best thing to do really is to have a self-cleaning oven. You put it on the self-cleaning mode, you let it go until it stops. Go out of the house for a few hours, take the kids with you, because the fumes are noxious, you can get sick. One year my wife did get sick from being in the vicinity of the self-cleaning oven. You don't realize it until all of a sudden you have a terrible cough, and then you've kashered the oven. Now, quite often we get questions about the grates on top of the oven. How do we kasher the grates on top of the oven? So the best thing to do is, if you have Really the issue with the grates is that you have chametz that drips on it. Now, the last time I checked, we're not really eating food off the grates. No one takes food off the grates and eats it. In fact, during the year, we consider the grates and we consider the top of the oven, the stove, we consider it treif. Why is that? Because quite often, milchiks and fleishiks drips onto the top of the stove. So let's say or in my case, let's say your yeshiva bacher comes home from yeshiva ben azmanim, and he decides he wants to make an omelet, and he puts 65 omelets into the frying pan, 65 eggs. And then all of a sudden you come home from davening, and they're all over the top of the stove. Oh, Tyler, what do I do now? So that stuff is treif, especially because of the fact that it's eggs, and it's wet, and it's hot, and it's got all the milas, all the advantages that you want to have a treif egg. So, rule number one, don't let your yeshiva bacher near your oven or stove. Okay, we got that? Good. The Chazal say, ain't chacham kabal anisayin. Right? No one's as smart as a person that has experience. But all jokes aside, really just leaving the oven for a second, if you're going to be home for Pesach and you're going to use your stove top, take off the if you have a self-clean oven, take off the racks, or take off the burners, throw them, not the burners, the grates. Throw them in with the self-cleaning oven. Don't worry about it. So it might peel a little bit, but you've kashered it, no problem. And then, of course, you have to cover the stove. So I suggest to everybody, what you do is take heavy-duty aluminum foil, cover the stove, and make sure you properly ventilate it, leaving room for the gas to come through, so that where the pilot is or where the electric burner has a chance to go. If you're going to cover it, there's a safety feature. It's not going to go on. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Am I going too fast? Okay. So now, let's say a person doesn't have... Oh, one last thing. There's a famous machlekes Rabbi Moshe and Rabbi Aaron. What do you do about the glass? What do you do about the glass? So, Rabbi Moshe held that you have to cover the glass, because the glass cannot get properly cleaned. You can't really clean it. There's also there's crevices over there. Therefore, the minig is, even if you're going to have a self-clean oven, the minig is what you do is you cover the glass on the inside with foil. So, in other words, let's say we're looking at here's the inside of the oven. The oven is here. Here's the inside. Here's the outside. What you want to do is you have the glass. You want to do is take a piece of foil, bring it around, and then what you do is you tape it in the front. In other words, so that it doesn't fall off. You're not moving it away the whole Yom Tiv. So then you've covered it. Rabbi Aaron held it's not a problem, but many people are macher. Now, what does a person do if a person doesn't have a self-clean? So usually when we kasher an oven, what we do is we put it on the highest setting. Make sure you clean it, of course. Now, as Rabbi Stiegelman also said, there's a difference between libun and hagala. Hagala, you have to wait 24 hours. Why do you have to wait 24 hours by hagala? So if I could just explain it a little bit deeper. The idea of 24 hours, right? Everybody says 24 hours, 24 hours. What's the issue of 24 hours? The idea of 24 hours is the following. We hold that after 24 hours, the taste becomes pugum. Pugum means it becomes, what's the English word for it? Pugum is that what? Not contaminated. It becomes what? Degraded. Let's use the word degraded. Once 24 hours passes and something hasn't been used, the taste that's in the walls now has been degraded to the point where it's not any more strong. It can't give off any more tam. So therefore, really me'ikar adin. If I, let's say, have a pot and I haven't used it for 24 hours I haven't used it for 24 hours for milk, I could really use it for meat after 24 hours. What's the problem? The problem is Chazal made a gzeira. They were afraid that you're going to use the pot within 24 hours. So since we're afraid that you're going to use the pot within 24 hours, so they said you have to wait 24 hours. Now, once we have 24 hours, we still have to go and we have to kasher it in hot water. Why do you have to kasher it in hot water? No, I'm sorry. Even in 24 hours, you have to kasher it in hot water. But we're afraid that in order to be mavatal the tam, you have to have 60 times the tam in the hot, 60 times the hot water that you do the tam. We're afraid that you're not going to have that much. Therefore, Chazal said, wait 24 hours. I'm sorry, I worked backwards. So therefore, the minig is to wait 24 hours. Now, you might want to ask me, what do we do when we go to a hotel? Or what do you do when you're going to a place where you don't have 24 hours? So I don't know if I should give away the trades of the secret. But there's a famous Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish says that if you take ammonia, you take something which is a davar hapoigim. A davar hapoigim means something that will degrade the tam. That is as if you're getting the 24 hours. So let's say we're going to a hotel, and we need to kasher the hotel because we're going to have a wedding. So the Chazon Ish says l'chatchila. L'chatchila means me'ikar adin. You're allowed to. You're allowed to take a big pot. You want to kasher the silverware, let's say. We fill up the pot with hot water. We pour in ammonia. Right? We let it bubble. And then we kasher the silverware. Now, don't tell anybody I said that. It's not on tape. No one's going to see it. But this is a trade. This is a secret of the trade. The kashrus agencies have, Baruch Hashem, gotten away from this over the last few years because the truth is, it's not. The Chazon Ish says it. So who's bigger than the Chazon Ish? But we try to avoid it as much as possible. But that is an eitzah that we come up with when we do need it, when we do have to, when we don't have a choice. And it's a chatchila according to the Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish is certainly somebody you can rely on. Now, let's get back to the ovens. So when we're talking about the ovens and you don't have a self-clean, so now we have a problem. So I can tell you in Eretz Yisrael, everybody in Eretz Yisrael doesn't have a self-clean. Even people that do have self-cleans, what they do is they use an oven insert. Now, far be it for me to tell you an oven insert. I'm not here to paskin. I'm just telling you that what the options are. The reason is because that many poskim hold that something which is not a self-cleaning oven will not be able to really burn off all the chametz that's in the walls. So therefore, everybody should ask their own Rav what to do. I can imagine that using an insert is not the best eitzah in the world. Maybe I know some poskim hold that you can turn on the oven for 3-4 hours at the highest temperature, and that's a good kashering. I don't know what the line inside of tinfoil. Yeah, so that's. I'm just giving you the a little bit of the background, but that's something that definitely you should speak to your Rav about. It's not so simple. Obviously, the best is to have a self-cleaning oven, or make sure that your mother-in-law invites you for Yom Tif, and then you've taken care of everything. That's ovens. Now, sinks. So sinks are problematic. They're challenging. Actually, I have a guy on my show who always tells me, Rabbi, there's no such thing as problems. There's issues. So sinks can be an issue. Now, what can be the issue with sinks? First of all, if somebody has a ceramic sink, you cannot kasher a ceramic sink. So the best thing to do is get an insert. Take an insert. You can get them in. We used to have a town variety. Every time I see Beverly, I always tell her that with Pesach I have to go to Williamsburg to buy all that stuff. But you get a insert. That's the best thing. Now, what if a person has a metal sink? So now you have to do something called irui. Now, what's irui? As Rabbi Siegelman explained, that the halacha is that the way something becomes, or the way it gets a status, is the way the status has to be taken out. So therefore, when we're talking about a sink, how does a sink become chametzik, or how does a sink become treif, let's say? It has hot water coming down from the sink. The sink is the faucet. The faucet can be considered a kli rishon. Pouring into the sink, now the sink, I've done irui kli rishon into the sink. So how am I going to kasher it? So the way to kasher it is, I have to heat up hot water and pour it into the sink. Now here is where I come back to the hakdama that I gave before about really knowing what you're doing. And the reason I say that is because if a person is not going to cover, you're not going to cover your sink, and you're not going to put an insert, and you're going to kasher it, you have to make sure you kasher it the right way. So now, the halacha is that when I do irui, I have to pour on top of the sink, or I have to pour whatever I'm pouring on top of, I have to make sure that the water comes directly from the source of where I'm pouring it and hitting the sink. So l'mashal, what I do is I take a pot. I put a pot which is not a ben yoimai, pot which has not been used in 24 hours. Or you can take a Pesach pot. Go downstairs, take a Pesach pot. You fill it up. Now the pot is bubbling. Now, a caveat is that a person has to understand that the halacha says, the Rama brings, it has to be male avabuais. The water that I'm using to pour from, the pot that I'm using that has the water that's bubbling has to be bubbling. Doesn't mean it looks hot. It doesn't mean I think it's hot. It means it is objectively hot. It is bubbling. Bubbling means mal avabuais. Bubble, 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 bubble. It's a rolling boil. It's a rolling boil. And that rolling boil, it's a rolling boil. If it's not a rolling boil, that's not the proper water to use. So unfortunately, I don't have I wanted to bring a cassette burner. I couldn't dig one up. But basically, you have to make sure that it's on the fire long enough where it's bubbling, 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 yet you have no doubt that water is bubbling. You see the bubbles coming up. Now, you have to be very careful when you're doing this, because you can get hurt. And I've been doing this for many, many years, and I still manage every year in my own kitchen to burn myself. How? I'm not sure. Maybe because I'm a moron. But I end up burning myself every year. So basically, ladies, let your husbands do it. You know what I mean? So just don't do it yourself. Let your husbands, they can handle it. But it's very, very dangerous because it has to get to that rolling boil, and you could really, really get hurt. Now, if I could just get that plastic thing there, the plastic tub. Yeah. All right. So imagine this is your sink, and imagine this is the water. Okay? I don't know if everybody could see. So if you could just see, this is the water that got hot. Okay? Pretend it's bubbling, and now you're kashering. So first of all, you want to make sure that you're wearing gloves. So I have gloves over here. I don't know if anybody can get you can get a hold of them. Again, they're these gloves. I don't know how to get them. Basically, they're heavy duty gloves. You can stick them into water, and you can go online if you want to really spend a lot of money. There's something called linesman's gloves. Linesman's gloves, about $200. These are not linesman's gloves. Linesman's gloves are for linesmen. People. I'm not sure. One of my nursing homes lent this to me for a presentation. Basically, this is what they use in the kitchens. We're taking hot food, hot pots off the water. So you want to get something. You want to get something if you want, or if you have winter gloves or something, good ski gloves that are thick. That might work also. But you want to make sure that you are properly covered, insulated. So chas v'shalom, you can get a 3rd-degree burn like I do. Baruch Hashem, Mr. Hashem, give me a bracha this year, shouldn't happen. But I have a lot of Silvadine in the house, and always, right? So you got to be careful. Now, Silvadine, by the way, will not stop the burn. It'll just stop the blistering. Motrin is the way to do it, but again, give me a bracha that shouldn't be a moron again this year. Anyway, okay, so now, basically what you want to do is, people make a mistake. They think that if they just pour it like this, now it got to the rest of the sink, it's kosher. That's not true. When you're kashering, the kiluach means wherever it's being, this is coming off the fire. This is hot. This is the pot that was on the fire, right? And now I'm kashering my sink. So people think if I just pour it and it splashes to the rest of the sink, that's okay. It's not okay. That's not called kashering. Kashering means everywhere in the kiluach, wherever the kiluach goes. And again, if you want to look and see over here, the water is dripping down. That's not good. Wherever the water hits, that's what gets kashered. So you need a tremendous amount of water in order to kasher, because the kiluach, the kiluach is what? The stream has the stream coming directly from the pot that you're pouring from has to hit every single area. Where it bounces to is not going to help you. So now this brings us to the next part, and this is where it's very. I just spilled. Anyway, so this is where it brings us, where you really got to know where we can help you. So now, this is why the best thing to do is to go to Gift World. You can't do it anymore because I bought the last 2 today. Is basically what you want to do is you want to use something like this. This is called an Even Hamalubin. An Even Hamalubin means that it's a stone that gets white hot. This is called it's called the Kashering stone. It's a gewaldige Zach. It's really a great thing. Basically, what you do is you take this, you put it onto your stovetop, and you let it get red hot. Then what happens is, as soon as you get it red hot, you take the water off the fire, then you pour it over, and now it just got all over the sink, if you could tell. It hit every part of the sink. So now, what did I just gain by hitting every part of the sink? I gained 2 things. Number 1 is that I was able to hit with the water every single part of the sink, and not only that, I cooked the water on the way down, off the fire, on the way down. The water got recooked, okay? And now it's mamash reischim, it's burning. And as a result of the stone, it splatters to all parts of the sink. And now I've kashered lechatchila. There's no shaila. I can use my sink. If something falls into the sink, it's not chametz stick. If you're cooking, it's gevaldik. Why? Again, because take a look, because it hits every single part of the sink, and more importantly, it's a red hot, right? We talked about libun before, right? It's like you're cooking. It's like getting a water libun, and it's hitting every single part of the sink. And now, Yeah, you go around with the stone. Exactly. You go around with the stone, and you'll get every single part. Therefore, you don't have to use a lot of water. Your wife doesn't get mad at you. You're not destroying your kitchen, and everybody's happy. Okay? Was that clear? Did I get it clear?
Can it be done in more than one time for one sink, or it has to be done in one part?
No, you could do it in 3 parts.
You finish the pot and you need more water. You boil another pot.
Right. Right. But again, but the mila is that you don't have to have a kiluach going on every single spot, right? Gewaldig. Now, so you might say to yourself, Schwartz just bought the rest of the stone. So now, what am I going to do? Whoops. So can I just get my bag over there? I'm all tethered up over here. There you go. There's that pliers there. There you go. Okay. So now, let's say you can't get one of this, because again, I stole them all from the store. I bought them. So now what you do is like this. You go outside. For those of you, I grew up in Muncie. I grew up in the suburbs, right? And in Muncie we had something called grass and something called trees. Not only that, there's something called rocks and stones. Okay? So now what you could do is, you could take a rock and a stone, find it outside. Your wife is going to love you. You could put it on top of the stove, and you can get it hot also. Now you might want to say, how am I going to use it? Brick also works, but a brick you have to be careful, because it gets cured with water, and then when you put it on top of the stove, the water evaporates, and then it starts breaking. Be very careful, okay? You have to really be careful what you're doing. In fact, I would say don't try this at home, but you're doing it at home. So try it at home. But what you do is you can go to your local dollar store, or you can go to Home Depot and get one of these things. I think it's called a pliers, a wrench plier. I was getting mixed up. Anyway, basically what you want to do is you take the stone. You're going to hold the stone. You don't need this thing, this contraption. And I remember when I was a kid in Lithuania, we didn't have this. So we had rocks. So basically, you're going to take the rock. You're going to hold the rock like this. Again, you have to be very careful. Make sure you have some sort of thing. Right? I'm just using this, for purposes of being able to show you. You hold the rock off the fire, and again, you'll take the water and pour it over like this. And now you've gotten your iroi, and you've gotten to be able to take care of it. Again, you should definitely don't use those little thin gloves that you give to your shiksa to clean. You have to use a real. You have to use a real. You know what I'm saying? That it's not going to help you. You're going to get hurt. Your mom is going to get hurt. It's not going to help you. You're going to get very, very. It can be terrible. You have to have good gloves. And if you're not sure what you're doing, there's plenty of people that know how to kasher. You can go online. You can. There are services that do it. We'll send somebody to do it. It's not kedai. You can really get hurt. Yeah.
Do you need to kasher your stove prior to kashering the sink? So like you're boiling hot water on the stove, does it matter if you kasher the stove yet or not?
I'm not sure. Oh no, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. Because the truth is, the area of the grate. What's it?
Repeat the question.
Yeah, the question was, if I understood it, was that can you heat up the water on top of a stove that has a kasher yet for Pesach? The answer is yes, because the area of the grate that you're putting this on top of, that's getting a continuous kashering. The problem is the rest of it, right? Since the fire is underneath it, that's a continuous libun gomer. All right? Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
If the sink became is chametz stick from pouring water into it from a pot that's not anymore a rolling boil, right? So why can't I use water that's just really, really hot and not a rolling boil to kasher it, right? Kibolo kapolto.
Because we don't. Oh, very good. That's a very good question. So the question is, you're talking about heating up the water. Why do I have to heat the water?
Rolling boil, and now I start pouring it, and it's cooled off, but it should be hot enough compared to.
Right. So the question over here is, why do I have to make sure I have to have a rolling boil? And the answer to that is because we don't know how hot the water in your sink got. We don't know how hot the water in your faucet came out. So since we don't know, it could be at any moment during the rest of the year, during the 58 days of the year, we don't know how hot the water got. But we know that it can't get past boiling. Right? Then it turns into steam. So since we know it can't get past boiling, so therefore we know that you, again, as Rabbi Sigelman said, it's kabayla kach polta. The way it comes in is the way you have to take it out. So I have to assume the most extreme amount of heat it came in. That way I have to take it out. Okay? So that everyone understands that? Okay. Very good. Yes?
Yeah, so you have to let your sink, not use your sink for 24 hours or only...
And make sure it's clean as well. I'm sorry?
You can use it for cold water.
You can use it for cold water, right.
Within 24 hours.
But it has to be, first it has to be cleaned and then fallow for 24 hours. Okay? Clean means mamish clean. All right. Now, there's two more aspects, at least, that we have. Three more aspects that we have to talk about. Number one is we have to talk about the faucet. The faucet, right, is itself chametz stick. So how am I going to kasher the faucet? So now, if you have one of these things, it's very good. What you'll do is you'll pretend over here this is the faucet. Okay. If I could just get Rabbi Siegelman to come help me for a second. Okay. So pretend this handle here is the faucet. What you want to do is you want to take the stone, put it right under the faucet where the water comes out, and then you want to pour the water. No, pour that water. That one. Yeah. There, here, take that water. Yeah. Shkach. Right, and just pour it onto the stone. Pour it onto the stone, and now it comes. Right. Do it again. See, and now it goes right back up into the spout. So now you've kashered the spout.
The stone's sitting underneath, touching the faucet under the bottom.
Right. You want to be. This should be under the faucet or touching the faucet so that the water goes right back in. So again, kabbalah kach boltei. Hot water came out. Hot water is going back right back in, and it's even better because we have the hot stone. The hot stone is heating up the water to a point where it's mamash roischim, it's mamash malav abuos. It's coming up bubbling because this stone is extremely hot. You put it back on the fire, and now I was able to kasher the spout.
Any stone from outside will work.
I'm sorry? Any stone from outside will work. But again, be careful because the stones can pop, they can break. This stone is in a metal casing, it's very good. And I think it's been cured in a way where it's not gonna crack open. In fact, yes?
How does the faucet become chametz?
How does it become chametz? Yeah. Water can come back up if the sink got stuffed up and the water came up. If you have a hose and you brought the hose down to the chametz, we don't. The problem is we don't know. So since we don't know, we have to be chayshish that it's chametz stick, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're using water a whole Pesach that's chametz, especially hot water that's coming out of the spout. Now, two other things. Number one is the drain. So the drain is also chametz stick. So what do I do about the drain? So the best thing to do is to pour hot water over the drain. The meaning is also to take bleach and to pour it down the drain as well. And that basically covers you that if there's any chametz in there that you're not seeing, right, you were just mafsal it. You just made it, you degraded it, you just made it not roy lachilas kelev, and now you kasher. Two more things. Now one more aspect which is very, very important that people don't know this, right? Now, when I moved into Queens 12 years ago, 12 years ago. So 11 years ago, we did our kitchen. So the contractor comes to me and says, you want undermount or overmount? I said, what's undermount and what's overmount? He goes, well, there's something called an overmount sink and there's something called an undermount sink. So everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? So overmount sink means, you ever notice that the metal goes over onto the counter. Undermount means that it comes under the counter. Okay, so it comes up. So if you have an overmount sink, that's great. It's gewaldic. Why? Because you can really kasher the metal in the overmount. What happens if you have an undermount sink? Now, what's the problem with the undermount sink? The problem with the undermount sink is that you'll never really be able to get to those crevices and kasher inside. There's definitely chametz in there. So what do I do? How am I going to kasher it? So best thing to do is have an insert. That's actually what we have it at home. We have an insert. But yeah, so but we'll talk about that when we talk about the counters. I just want to talk about the sinks right now. Thank you for bringing that up, but I just want to talk about the sinks. So how are you going to kasher the undermount? So what I do is I kasher my sinks. I can personally just tell you, giving you what I do is I kasher my sink. I try to get as much as I can onto the sides, and then we use an insert. But in order to take care of the crevice, or the insert takes care of the crevice because you're not really near the crevice. Try to get some bleach in there. You're mevatel the chametz that's in there, and then you're okay. What I do also is, just to be a little bit psychotic for Pesach, is in Home Depot you can get something called aluminum foil tape, which is it's waterproof, and it has you take off the back and you cover the crevice. So that way, in case you don't have a insert, you've also covered the crevices with a waterproof tape, and now the chametz is not going to get in.
Crevices where? Around
by the undermount. In other words, where the sink hits the counter underneath. The seam. Right? That's called the undermount seam. I just made up that. Right? So there is that's a problem. Okay? So again, you can go to Home Depot. Beverly used to have it. It's aluminum foil tape. You could probably get it. I would think maybe the paint store, maybe he has it. A lot of the stores now carry it also with the chametz supply, with the Pesach supplies. I think Rosenblum's and Kew Gardens, he carries it as well, and then you're taking care of it. Now we're talking about the counters. So we're talking about counters.
The knobs in the sink, you have to cover the knobs, you have to kasher the knobs.
Cover the levers. Oh, so you're covering the levers. So you can go today. If you go to any Pesach store, you'll find that they have covers. Or you can also do Eroi over it. Personally, at home, I kasher it and I don't cover it. And the reason for that, actually, I cover it with aluminum foil. We used to use those covers that they give. They give like these covers where they fit on. But the problem with that is that they get wet and then they start dripping and it gets all over the place. And so the best thing to do is really to just take aluminum foil. Agav.
The knobs on the sink.
On the knobs in the sink, yeah.
And also some people also do the neck. And
some people do the neck, right. A lot of people, I remember my mother-in-law, Allah Shalom, had the minhag that anything which is exposed, she covered with aluminum foil. That was the minhag Yisrael Kedoshim. A lot of women have that minhag. It's a beautiful minhag because, first of all, it makes the kitchen look Pesach thick, and second of all, the truth is that I'm saying in all seriousness. And second of all, it really saves you because a lot of things you can't get off. And Pesach, we're machmir, mamish, chametz is not even batal b'mashu. Chametz, right? We know that things are batal in shishim and sheish and 1 and 200 and 1 and 100. Pesach, chametz on Pesach is not even batal b'mashu, right? If you eat even a little bit of chametz on Pesach, it's gefährlich, it's terrible. So any chumrah that a person takes upon themselves within reason, of course, is something which is laudable and should be done. Yes.
The hose connecting that to the spritz for the sink, can that be kasher?
No, that can't be kasher. But you don't need to kasher it. All you need to kasher is where it comes out. Okay? Fine. The counters. So my suggestion to everybody is that, again, when we redid our kitchen, so I decided, I want to have granite counters. Why? Because I can kasher the granite counters at Pesach. So the first year we finished the kitchen, we didn't use the kitchen until Pesach. I got to tell you, it's geschmack to be able to have your dishwasher on the day after Pesach and be able to do your dishes. But kashering a dishwasher is very difficult. I don't suggest it. I don't recommend it. If you want to kasher your dishwasher and then it's a metal dishwasher, you want to speak to me afterwards, I'm going to run away and not talk to you. Maybe go to your Rav. Maybe he can help you. But dishwashers are very, very complicated. And that's the reason is because the filter is very hard to clean out. And there's always chametz stuck in there. And it's not easy. So, it's something which I don't recommend. Again, if speak to your local Orthodox rabbi, if he has a better idea how to do it, I'm sure that he's looked into it, but they're very, very hard to do, especially and for sure if it's plastic. Now, counters, I suggest you cover them. If you're not going to cover them because you have granite, first of all, if you have formica, you have to cover it. You absolutely must cover it.
Does it have to be 2 layers?
It has to be no. So there's no hard and fast rule how many layers. It just has to be that it can't get through, especially if you're going to put hot food down. So. An eitzah that to do is what we do at home. Also, I'm just giving you practical eitzahs. After many years of trying and failing and coming up with it, is that you can get that plastic. I think they sell it in Seasons. I forget what corrugated plastic maybe or something it's called. You put that on. They sell the waterproof tape. I think some at a Lakewood they sell it, and they sell it in all the stores. Has ashkacha, a few ashkachas. I don't know why exactly, but it does. And you can put it down. You're fine. You're not going to get through. For hot pots going on top, my suggestion is also you take like an extra piece of foil just to make sure because it is, or an extra piece of plastic, just to put it on top. But again, my suggestion is if you have granite and you want to see your granite, so again, you have to do the granite in the same way that you're doing the sink. Take the rock, heat it up, and pour the hot water, and make sure it splashes on every single part that you're going to leave exposed. Otherwise, the mamash have a problem with chametz. It's mamash chametz stick. So you want it. That's the way you want to do it. Very important. If you have a backsplash, or even if you don't have a backsplash, right? You have to make sure that it's covered, because there's a lot of chametz there. Something which is extremely important, which unfortunately it took me a while to really understand this, was if you have your microwave, which is above your sink, which is above your oven, so you have the hood. That hood gets extremely dirty. There's a tremendous amount of chametz and grease in there. And it's very, very hard to clean. So what do? Now it's a double-edged sword. Because on the one hand, you really don't want to make sure that stuff's not dripping when you're cooking your matzo ball soup, or whatever it is you're cooking for Pesach. You want to make sure that the grease is not dripping in. So you got to clean it. But the problem is it is very hard to clean. it could take days to clean it. It could really take, and you have to really use good degreaser. So what do some people do? They take aluminum foil and they cover it. Then you have a different problem, because now you're covering the hood, and the airflow is not going up through to the, it's not reaching where it should go in order to exhaust, in order to get out. So that poses chas v'shalom a big problem. Sakana can be a danger. So what do you do? So you have to be careful. But people are not nizar. People are not careful in making sure that hood is clean. That hood has mamish chametz gomer, has real chametz in it, has grease in it, has chametz in it. If you go, I'm telling you, go home now. Look at that hood. If you have it above your stovetop, you will see that it is filthy. Especially if you haven't cleaned it in quite some time, you'll see that everything that you cook, everything, and you'd be surprised. You can find pieces of macaroni or chicken or stuff. It finds its way. It goes up, and I don't know if it's Star Trek or something, but it somehow it goes up there and it's there. And chas v'shalom, it can fall into your soup on when you're cooking for Pesach, and it's gefährlich. So that's something that you have to be really, really careful with. I can't stress it enough. Like I said before, you have to really clean that out well. And if you're going to use foil and cover it, make sure it's ventilated. Make sure you poke holes through it so that you're able to, get the ventilation coming the way it should. One of the most common shilos that have come up in recent years is that there's a place in Central Florida. It's Haystus, Orlando. There's a place called Orlando. I don't know if everybody heard of Orlando. Everybody hear of Orlando? Okay. So a lot of people go to Orlando for Pesach. Beautiful. It's a great place to go. It's nice for the kids. People rent out houses over there, vacation houses. So, alles gut und wohl. Everything is beautiful. The problem is that a lot of these vacation houses have something called a glass stovetop. So what do you do when you want to use a glass stovetop? So the glass stovetop is not so easy to kasher. So some places can say that the exact area where the coils are, so that you're able to kasher, because that gets very, very hot. Now, there's a real shiloh if you can kasher glass or not. What do you do when it comes to glass? So an answer that they give is to somehow cover it with aluminum foil. It's not so simple. So if I could have that Amazon box there, thank you. So someone sent this to my attention this year. So for those of you who have glass, so I have a great answer for you. And it's this thing. It's called something or other. It's called a pank. Where'd it go? Is it in there? The handle? It must have fallen out in the car. So this thing goes. Thank you very much. So basically, this thing, what is a you can go on Amazon. I can give it to you afterwards. I don't know if it's in here. No. So this goes right on top of the glass. You can put the pot on top of it. You don't have a problem. You don't have a problem because the glass is sitting on top of the glass, and it's not touching the glass. There's no reitiv. There's nothing. There's no reitiv be'emtza. There's no gravy in the middle, which is conducting any of the chametz that's coming up, and it's being kasher on top of this metal. So I spoke to a few poskim in the neighborhood, and I don't know if I should give out their names or not, but some of the chashuv poskim in the neighborhood told me that they think that this is the best eitzah, that if a person has a glass stovetop, or you're going away to a vacation, and a vacation apartment or wherever you're going, and you want to cook on top of the glass, this thing is very good. It's a good eitzah. You can put it down. You can put the pot on top of it. I hear also that it conducts the heat very well. I heard there were complaints that some rabbanim told people that they should put foil on top of the glass, and that way they can cook that way. But it's not so easy because apparently it doesn't cook as well. This thing is made special that I guess that for people that don't want to put their pots straight on top of the glass. This thing is metal, it conducts the heat, and it has holes, so it really comes through in full force, and you're able to use this. So for those of you who do have glass, it's called, it's on my phone, I can show it to you afterwards. I think it's about $25 on Amazon, and it's something which is kedai. Now, somebody that wants the kasher, what else do we need to cover? So anybody else that wants the kasher, so the minig is, so let's say you have kiddush cups. So the minig is that if you want to use your kiddush cups for Pesach, we kasher them. And why is that? The reason is because we're afraid that the kiddush cups got washed in the chametz sink. Actually, someone told me today, I met someone today by Agalas Kalim in Kew Gardens, he actually told me that he's makbid the whole year, that he doesn't even put his Kiddush cup down. After Shabbos, he washes it in cold water, then he dries it with a paper towel, he puts it back in the break front. But he was still kashering it. Why? Because the minhag is that anything that was used for chametz, we kasher. That's the minhag. Of course, everybody knows, if I can just get a drink of seltzer or water. So, of course, everybody knows there's a difference between Ashkenazim and Sfardim when it comes to glass. The minhag by the Ashkenazim, the Ramah brings, is that we do not kasher glass for Pesach. Now, in Europe, they had a problem. In Europe, they did not have money. Baruch Hashem, today, even a person is, let's say, not quote-unquote wealthy, but everybody today has a separate set for Pesach, whether of dishes, of silverware, of glasses, whatever it is. So, thank you very much. So it's not really a problem. But in the old days, it was a problem. So what do you do? So it's something called Milui V'Irui, that the Ramah says, but the Eved, a person, what he could do is he could take drinking glasses, and he could put it into water and fill it and refill it 3 times over 3, one time over 3, each over 3 days, and that way you're able to kasher the glass. The Sfardim are more makel with this. The Mechaber, Ravad Yosef brings this down very clearly, that you wash it out, your drinking glasses, you wash it out, and you use it, l'chatchila, no problem. So again, but the minhag Ashkenazi is that we do not use chametz glasses. Now, if a person wants to kasher silverware, Rabbi Siegelman said very clearly earlier, that if a person wants to kasher silverware, you have to make sure, number one, you haven't used it for 24 hours, and number two, it's one contiguous piece of silver. It's a contiguous piece of metal. It doesn't have a wooden handle, doesn't have a separate plastic handle, has to be one contiguous piece of metal. Then what you do is you kasher, you put it into a boiling pot. That pot cannot have been used for 24 hours either. And the minhag is also, after you kasher a kalim, you put it into cold water, or you rinse it under cold water, and you rinse it in a sink that's already kasher for Pesach. That's not a problem. Now, what does a person do if it comes Erev Pesach and you realize you didn't kasher your pot, and it's after the Zman? Okay, in other words, let's say this happens. Person, it's already the Zman, the Saif Zman Achilas Chametz, or the Saif Zman Bir Chametz. It's the time to burn Chametz, and you realize you have a pot that wasn't kasher. So that's a big problem, because what's happening is that it's Chametz stick, and the Chametz is Asur B'Mashu, and now it's coming out into the water. And it's a real problem. So you have to speak to a Rab if the Shas Atchak. In other words, a person, after this man realizes that he needs a certain pot and he hasn't kashered it, so you should speak to your Rab before you do anything, before you start kashering, because it can be a tremendous problem.
Chametz in the water, where do you put the water?
What? And chametz in the water? Yeah, what?
Pour it back in your sink.
Well, you could pour it down the toilet, you could pour it outside, but... Okay. But the problem is now that you're only chametz after this man. Yeah, sorry.
What can you do by microwave? Is it possible to kasher microwave?
So microwaves. It's
Possible.
It's possible, but it's not. It's very. What?
Not recommended.
It's not recommended. It's very, very, very hard to clean. As I was actually pulling up, I have a friend who went away a couple days with his wife. He told me he's in a very upscale hotel, points of course, and he said the microwave is extremely clean. So how can he kasher it? So he sent me a picture of it. It was very clean. It was one of these, it was a really nice hotel microwave. In general, a microwave, if it's taka clean, 100%. So what we suggest is you take like a cup of water, you put it on the highest 10 minutes on the highest level, put a little soap in it also, and you let it run, and you've kashered it. The problem with the microwave, kashering a microwave, is that you really don't know 100% that it's clean, that you really got it to where it has to be. So for sure for Pesach, we don't recommend it. There's always an eitzah that if you have to use a microwave, you could double wrap something. That already, of course, is a double wrap, meaning that it's completely closed. Both wrappings are completely closed. Is there anything we didn't hit?
So you kasher it up if it's plastic?
Plastic.
The same thing with the sink area. There's a plastic piece in there. Can that be kasher, or you have to get it?
You're talking about. So it's better to replace it. I can tell you. Thanks for reminding me. We have. I think it's called Delta. So the bottom of our sink, where the water comes out, the nozzle, it comes off. So a few years ago, Amazon's a big bracha min hashamayim. It always bothered me because I always felt that I wasn't able to clean the holes properly. Because where the water comes out, and there's a lot of schmutz that gets in there. So I went online, I found it. I found the replacement piece. So now what I do is I take it off. I kasher the piece that it screws into. In other words, the hose, the bottom, where it has the aerator, but it has the screws, and you kasher that, and then you just put on the new one for Pesach, and you put it away every year. You're able to do that. I don't know if you have people who could do that with their sinks, but that was a great answer that we came up with. Yeah.
So I have the same thing at home, and we take it off. We have a new aerator and also a new piece to put on separately for Pesach. But does that mean we have stuff that you really with the stone against the nozzle? Because the nozzle part is never touching outside. You take away about an inch worth of the aerator and the end that's touching any food that might splash back.
Yeah, but the problem is that it might get in there. You want to kasher that.
Through the aerator into
Yeah, it's porous. Stuff gets in there. Yes.
If you kasher the sink as per what you said so far, do you need an insert, or can you
No, you don't need an insert.
So if you kasher it like that.
No problem.
Also,
Yeah.
what if you don't have a self-cleaning oven? How do you clean? Is there a way to clean the grit to kasher the grates?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. So if you don't have a self-cleaning oven, how do you kasher the grates? So first of all, very carefully. So the best thing, and I'm being serious, the best thing to do is to take aluminum foil. Take aluminum foil, put it over the grates. Okay. Make sure you ventilate it very well. Put a lot of holes there, and let it run. I would say let it run for about 5 to 8 minutes, but carefully watching. In other words, turn on the flames high, all of them, or you can do one by one. That's also fine. And about 5 to 8 minutes, you'll be able to you'll get it to a good kashering. But
Like an aluminum pan, like covered.
no, aluminum foil.
Like it has to be very closely covered.
Yeah, because you want the fire again. You want the fire to.
Or a blech.
You can put a blech, but you might make a hole in the blech. I don't know. It depends on how thick the blech is. Aluminum foil, you do thick aluminum foil, that'll be good. But again, you have to be very, very careful. What I suggest you do is not to do that, because you can really cause a lot of damage. The best thing I think to do is that if you want to use those grates, just take aluminum foil, cover the grates. In other words, just physically take aluminum foil and cover the grates. No, he's saying if you don't have a self-cleaning oven.
Find a self-cleaning oven.
Find a self-cleaning oven? Bring it to your mother-in-law. She'll have a self-cleaning oven. All right. Yes?
If you're using an insert for the sink, do you have to kasher anything on the sink?
Even if you're using an insert, it's still good to kasher the sink. You always want to kasher as much as you can.
The whole sink?
Yeah, as much as you can. Yeah. Anything else? The purpose of getting an insert is to be careful that nothing, that if there was any issue with the sink, that now you're covered as well. So, but the rule in kashering is you kasher whatever you can to the best of your ability. Because that way, let's say chas v'shalom, the food drips into the sink, or let's say the insert's broken, or let's say so now you covered, you kasher the sink. You want to know me'ikra din, do you have to kasher it? I don't know if you have to kasher it, but certainly you want to be covered that if chas v'shalom something does hit it, that it's not chametzik.
So do you advise people to kasher and cover?
Okay. Yes.
If you're kashering your sink, you're not going to be kashering your counters, but while you're kashering your sink, you get the water on the counters. Are you able to brush that into your now kosher Pesach sink, or brush on the floor and get it out?
Better not to. Yeah, better not to. Everybody understood that question. If you're kashering your sink and the water drips onto the counter that hasn't been kashered, it's better not to push that water into the sink. Yeah.
You said about the thing with the faucet, but I have the easy filter, and I have a separate one for Pesach. So basically, it's on there. When I'm doing the Pesach stuff, I put the Pesach one, so I'm pouring. You said you have to pour it up, but it's...
No, you want to kasher it without the filter on.
You have to do it without the filter?
You want to kasher without the filter on. Yeah, again, because you don't know the chametz that it's not a
So I guess I have to fill up the pot with the thing with the filter not on. But anyway, it's just for kashering.
Right. There is another way of kashering the sink, which I don't recommend, where you can fill up the sink with hot water and then you use an immerser, it's called. But that you really have to know what you're doing. You have to be a professional. You could really. Or you could use an Evan Malubin. Yeah, you could use an Evan Malubin, which is you fill up your sink with hot water after 24 hours, and you take an Evan Malubin, you take the hot stone, and you throw it in, and there you got a 100% kashering as well. I think this method my method is a little bit. I think it's safer. It's also cleaner, and I'll tell you it's cleaner. It's safer also, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so one year. So Oh boy, here goes. So one year I did it for somebody, and I stuck. Okay, everybody, it's going to be an Al moment. Basically, I was trying to pull out the stopper, and the water got into the glass. Yeah. So that was a 3rd degree burn, and it took me. Of course, I'm a macho man. So that was like 2 days before Pesach, and I went on the 3rd day of Chol Hamoed to the Staten Island burn unit, so to get it taken care of, where they said, now you come, it's getting better. But that's why I don't suggest that you do it that way, because chas v'shalom, you can really hurt yourself. And this is after many years of being in the industry, so it goes to show you how smart I am. But Pesach is really a time a person can get terribly hurt. You got to be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, it can really cause a lot of physical and emotional pain. Yes?
Can you use the electric kettle?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. You can use an electric kettle as well. Absolutely. We use that in Kashering, in some of our facilities. We use that where we can't, where we don't have a really good source of fire, like in a basement or something, or if you have, where you have the fire sprinklers are very sensitive, we'll use that as well. So that's a very good idea. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah. The kumkum, like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like the urn you normally keep filled up.
Yeah, like the Israeli kumkum, everybody, you know what I'm talking about? Where the little one, hot water. It gets very, very hot. If it gets very, very hot, you can use that.
Not a regular urn that you normally put.
No, not the regular urn. It doesn't get hot enough. Sure.
You talked about the stove, the door of the stove, the glass.
Right.
Can you say again how you have to cover? You said you can't kasher the glass on the door of the stove.
So what you do is just take a piece of foil, a couple pieces of foil on the inside, and bring it around to the outside. Right, and then you tape it down, and then you're covered. All right. Yeah.
Why wouldn't cleaning your countertops with bleach be sufficient enough?
How's that taking out the chametz? Chametz gets absorbed in, right? You put hot food down, you put hot pots down. Pots come off the oven, they spill, right? You take your chicken soup off the fire, let's say, and you put it down, or you put it onto a tray, and it spills on. How'd you get out the chametz tam? Bleach is not going to help you. Bleach just gets the surface, doesn't get inside. How am I getting inside the granite? That's the problem. Then for sure you can't kasher, because the formica, the granite is porous. It'll come out. The formica is I don't know what formica is. It's chemicals or whatever it is. Who says the Chazal didn't deal with formica, didn't exist. And many of the poskim hold that you can't pull the time out of the formica.
Is it any stone? Is it just it can be any stone, or is it only granite?
I think granite, quartz. What else is it? Marble. Yeah, some yes, some not. I believe. But I think generally the idea is where it's like 100% unadulterated. No, it's not with anything else in it, like plastics or stuff like that. Yes.
What about a barbecue grill?
Barbecue grill. Very good. So, did you talk about that just now? You didn't talk about it. So barbecue grill. Is this Nagel Lamaisa? You really want to kasher your barbecue grill? You sure you want to do it? Huh?
In Florida, they have
Florida. Nachamal. Okay. So Florida. So your barbecue grill. So your barbecue grill, you got a couple problems. The main problem is it's a treif grill. Yeah. It's a treif grill. Okay. So it doesn't really matter when it comes to Pesach. So now the problem is, as Rabbi Siegelman very clearly explained, is that when you put kabbalah kach poltoi, again, the way it comes in is the way it has to be taken out. So we talked about kashering an oven. Why is kashering an oven on the highest setting good? Because how does the chametz get absorbed into the oven? Through the heat that comes in from the oven. So therefore, I have to pull it out, getting out on a higher setting or on the highest setting, because I know that the chametz didn't go in further than that. When it comes to a grill, I have a direct heat source. And the direct heat source is below where the chametz is, or the treif is, and it's going into the grill. So how am I going to kasher the grill? How am I going to kasher the grates? So I have to kasher with the liban gomer. It's not enough a liban kal, right? Like an oven might be. I need a liban gomer because the flame is directly hitting the grates with the food on top of it. So there's only really one way to kasher it, and that is with coals. So my suggestion to you is the following. You're talking about a gas grill, or you're talking about a charcoal grill? Okay, gas. So it's not so simple. A charcoal grill is a little bit easier. A gas grill, what you're going to have to do is like this. You're going to have to, first of all, you're going to have to run you want to kasher also the inside. The inside has grease. You have to make sure the grease is clean. Now, it's not your grill, so I'm not really sure how you're going to do it without taking a risk of breaking it. So you have two problems. You have the inside of the grill, where the grease is, and then you have the grates that need to be kasher. And then also, by the way, you also have the top that gets pulled down, because that has chametz in it too. So first what you got to do is you got to take out the grates, and you have to run the gas grill as high as it goes. Okay? You got to turn it up as high as it goes. You got to put it on high. You got to put it on high, I'd say probably for a good half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe even longer, an hour. Okay? You got to monitor it and make sure you don't ruin that thing. So now you've kashered the inside and you've kashered the top. What about the grates? So the grates, you have to find the area where you can take charcoal. You have to put charcoal on the bottom of the grate and on the top of the grate. So basically you're making a charcoal sandwich. So you're taking real charcoal, Kingford charcoal. You're going to put it on the ground, if you can find a place to do it, if they'll let you in the condo area, whatever it is. I don't know if you'll be able to find it. Not so simple. What?
Use a torch.
No, you can't. No, you can't use a torch. No. You can't use a torch.
Disposable grills are really cheap.
You're not going to be able to get. You're not going to be able to hold it the whole time on each area to get into a Liebem Gummer. You're not going to be able to do it with the plumber's torch. If you do, then you're going to be there a long time. So basically, the best thing to do is you make a sandwich. You take the grates, basically over here. Let's say these are the grates. Here you're going to put charcoal underneath and charcoal on top. Light it and leave, and wait until it gets totally white. It stops and then it cools down, and now it's kasher. But again, if you're going to rent to a place, I'm not so sure they're going to let you do it. You can really take off the enamel that's on the grates. I'm not sure they're going to want you to do that either. The best eitzah to do really is to order. Oh, thank you. The best eitzah to do is to order new ones. That's I think probably easiest.
The charcoal grill is easier or something.
Yeah.
The dinner broken, so you have your boiling pot. It's fully boiled on the stove top. You now take it off and you start pouring it. You're pouring it for a while if you have a big pot. Do you assume, it's not boiling while you're holding it.
But it's coming straight from the fire, though.
That's good. That's
right.
good.
Yeah. But once you stop, you got to put it back. And if you still have water in, you got to put it back. Right. If you're pouring continuously, that's not a problem.
And somebody asked before, I didn't catch the answer. If you do stop and you didn't finish the sink, you can do a second shift.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a very good thing that you pointed out. One of the most important differences between Tfilas Kalim and Hagalas Kalim. Okay? Tfilas Kalim and Hagalas Kalim. When I go to the mikveh and I have to toivel a kli, so the halacha is that I have to take the whole keli and put it in at once. Just like when a person goes into the mikveh, right? For Tumah and Tara, a person goes to the mikveh, they can't be the whole person, right? Let's say a person's a zav. He has to go to the mikveh, right? So you have to go all the way in, right? You can't have one hair sticking out. You have to go all the way in. It's the same thing with a keli. Why is a keli going to the mikveh? Keli's going to the mikveh because the keli is becoming Jewish, right? Now, what about hagalas kelim? Hagalas kelim is different. Let's say I have a huge keli. Let's say I have a huge metal plate, and my pot, I can't put the whole thing in the pot at once. The halacha is I can do it half and half. Why is that? Because when I'm doing hagalas kelim, I'm pulling out the treif. So I don't need to put the whole thing in at once. I could do half, it pulls out from that half. I could do the other half, it comes out from that half.
That's why the pot that you do in the Haggalah in, you don't have to do the outside?
That's why, I'm sorry?
The pot that you're doing the Haggalah in,
Yeah.
the water's only on the inside.
But it's continually kashering though. But since it's bubbling, it's continuing.
I'm saying you're not the outside of the pot itself, you're not really getting to the wall, to the outside of the
Right. That's why it's good to let it bubble over also when you're kashering keli. That's correct. That's why some people take a stone, they throw it in so it'll bubble over. Right. That's correct. Thank you for pointing that out. All right. No, so when you want to kasher a keli totally, let's say for Pesach, a pot, you have to make sure that it bubbles over because you have to get the sides as well. You have to get the side. Well, not the outside you don't have to get. The inside you have to get. But you want to get the sides, the lip, and make sure that that's kasher as well. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
When you're kashering with the stone, you count it out of the sink, and you're doing it in shifts, like you just said. You have to clear off that water that's already in, or the boiling water that you're putting in the second shift is enough to kasher it?
You're talking about the cold water now?
No, let's say we're using the kashering stone. You're pouring the water over the sink.
Right.
So you're getting all of it base, but you're not going to get all of it in one shot.
No, you don't have to dry it off.
You don't dry it off.
No, that water's now, it's fine. Okay, any other questions? No?
I go by silverware.
Yes.
Chatchila can be changed from fleishiks to milchiks because Pesach is more chum.
We don't kasher from milchiks to fleishiks.
Right, but I'm saying if somebody's kashering for Pesach, if Pesach is more chummer, so it doesn't really make a difference.
If anyway you're kashering from Pesach,
so you
generally doing.
I'm thinking for myself. I've said I've used like 2 years.
We generally during the year we don't go from milchiks to fleishiks.
But if it becomes treif, or it becomes you're kashering from milchiks to Pesach, from not from chametz to Pesach, so then many places are makel. That once since you're doing a big kasher, you know very well. The reason why we don't go from milchiks to fleishiks is because we're afraid that we're.
Here's the question.
Forget. So now you're doing it for chametz, and then that's enough.
So the question was, let me just repeat the question, important question. Let's say the minig is, the halacha is that we don't kasher from milchiks to fleishiks. And let's say you have a set of silverware and you decide you want to use it now for fleishiks and it's milchiks. We don't kasher from milchiks to fleishiks. What happens if a person is kashering his chametz to cassette now for Pesach, and the chametz to cassette when it was chametz was milchiks, and now it's fleish, and now he wants to use the Pesach for fleishiks? Can he do that? So Rabbi Siegelman said that our poskim who say that is mutter. You're allowed to make kilim, that you're allowed to switch the designation once you're kashering from chametz to Pesach. So just want to end off that. What? You can't switch back.
After you, that's it. Now
That's
they're stuck.
I just want to end off in saying that, as I said earlier, these halachas are very complicated, and it really needs a lot of shikol hadas. Person has to really think into it and understand what you're doing. And it's kedai to speak to Rav even after this shir. You know, you can't really get everything in one shir. It takes practice. And Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Siegelman, and there are other many poskim in the neighborhood and all over the world, really, that are very well versed in these things. And again, I suggest that you avail yourself of them. There's a lot of good literature. Just try to be as educated as possible and try to understand exactly what we're trying to do. And that way you'll have a safe Chag, Kosher, V'Sameach. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you again.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.